Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast. Josh and Jell here live on a Tuesday after the Super Bowl. You're listening to us on Wednesday.
On a Tuesday.
Start of the Netflix show. If anybody's got Netflix out there, full swing, the behind the
Hashtag
scenes
not
look
a
at
sponsor.
PGA Tour. Yes, definitely hashtag not a sponsor, but definitely looking to forward to firing that up a little bit later on, a little behind the scenes action on the PGA Tour. So,
well, what's going to be cool about that is, you know, they were doing all that recording. Like, wasn't that when they were going through all the stuff with LIV?
Yes,
like
it was last
and all
year.
That back and forth with who's going to be playing and everything.
Yep.
This might be your last chance to see these some of these golfers that went to LIV in a PGA Tour events.
Exactly. Let's have a fun.
It should be pretty cool. I heard it's kind of similar to like the F1 show, Race to the Finish or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I
haven't either. But I've heard it's that similar type of thing, and F1's kind of having a moment. I think a lot because of that show.
Yep.
I mean, shit. I don't know anybody that watches or watched F1, but they said they were like, I don't know, it was like some race in Miami and it was like 30 million viewers watching or something, which who would have thought?
Yep.
For an F1 race, that's so random.
Yeah.
So
sure. Got a big show for you today. Going to recap the Super Bowl, talk a little Chiefs and Eagles, what's next for them. Waste management recap, and then the Genesis is this weekend. So we're going to talk that and give you our golf picks. Tiger is back. El Tigre.
Like a tiger.
Question of the day, Jill. I know this is what everyone has tuned in for. What did you think of the halftime show?
First impression was, holy crap, she has so many like top hits. I couldn't believe, like, she just kept going. It was like 12 different songs, and there was like, I think all of those ended up at like, you know, close at, if not at the top of the, you know, charts at some point, at least close to it. It's just like, it was mind blowing how many hits he has. As far as the show itself, I thought it was kind of boring. Like, honestly, we've seen better shows in the past, but God, those platforms made me nervous. I know you had mentioned that. I just like, and then I saw a clip the other day of one of the dancers like falling back, like falling onto the ground back, and was, you know, a couple inches from that edge, and it's like, yeah, they would have been toast if they had fallen back. So
yeah, that's insane.
But I don't know. I was also kind of sitting there like, you know, I would have expected from Rihanna, like, you know, some super sexy outfit. Come to find out afterwards, she's pregnant.
So makes sense.
Yeah. that reveal makes a lot of sense. But I don't know. I mean, I was amazed by how many hits she had. It's like, you know, you've heard of all the songs. It's just like when they're played back to back to back to back like that, it's like, holy crap. Like, she is like a pop hip hop legend. It's crazy, but I don't know. It wasn't extremely impressive, I guess, to me, just because maybe, I guess, you know, we've seen better, but, you know, I like Rihanna and I like the song list, even though she only played most of them for like 30 seconds or a minute, because she had so many songs to get through. She played like 30 seconds of each. It was like a little sample of every single one. So it was good. It wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, that's kind of where I sit too. I thought it was good, but I think my expectations were set with like the last few years where it seems like special guests have made appearances. So I felt like I was waiting for that because she's had so many good hits with so many other big names. I mean, I was waiting for like Love the Way You Lie and then Eminem to make an appearance.
I was waiting for that too. Yeah. But I think it's because she's had so many songs to hit.
Absolutely, which is fine. I think I just was, I guess I kind of ruined it myself because I just kept waiting for someone else to pop out onto the stage and it didn't happen. So
yeah,
but yeah, no, you'd mentioned those platforms and I am terrified of heights. And that was just like, just some of the angles they were showing. I was like, no, well,
I mean, I just
chance.
like imagine being on that platform and like looking down and being so far from the ground, like,
Right.
like,
I would have been laying
whose
down on my
idea was
stomach
this?
in
You're
the middle
gone.
of this. Right. Just crazy.
But I think you're right about the special guest. And like I think 3 of the last 5 songs were songs that she had done with Kanye, and obviously I don't think he's allowed in public anymore. So
probably not.
But I was like kind of sitting there like, like, God, I wish, I love the way I lie. Like I wish Eminem would have came out, or Run This Town with Jay-Z. Like that would have been cool. So I was sitting there waiting for the same thing. Cause I mean, last year it was Jay-Z, or who was it? It was Dr. Dre, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and Jay-Z.
50 Cent made an appearance.
75 cent.
75 cents.
A little more to him this year.
Right. Any just real quick before we jump in, any favorite commercials? I know you're at a Super Bowl party, so I don't know if you were paying too much attention.
One that I wasn't really paying that much attention, but I know the one that probably got the most buzz, at least at our party, was that Tubi commercial where they started like changing the channel.
Yes.
And I was like, because I saw my friend, one of my friends was changing the volume up and down, turned it up before the halftime show. And I was like, Marissa, what are you doing? It looked like she was changing the channel. I'm like, What are you doing? She's like, it's not me.
So they did exactly what they were planning to do. My favorite one, I don't know if you got to see it, was the Dodge Ram commercial, the premature electrification one. That was a playoff of like the premature sexual
I think
term,
I saw it. I
funny.
wasn't really paying attention.
It was just like, oh yeah, you have to watch it. It was so funny. I was just dying laughing, but it was a good one. Won't get into too much detail out there. This is a kid show, not really, but
putting that explicit tag on it.
It was funny.
I have to. I actually really want to like go back and watch all the commercials. You can find them online all over the place. So.
For sure. And they have them all, like, usually you could find like a top 10 or top 20 or whatever, and you can go through and just find the good ones. So, all right.
Apparently there was a Tesla commercial that was only shown in certain markets where they had these Teslas like running over dummies of children and saying like, this technology is unsafe. Like, NHTSA, like, do something about this. Like, don't allow this fully autonomous driving technology. Okay. Like, don't allow this because, it was showing like pedestrian, like, dummies of pedestrians getting hit or like strollers getting smoked. It's just like, Jesus.
Yikes.
Okay. I get it.
Wasn't it the Allstate Mayhem guy driving around?
Hashtag not a sponsor.
Hashtag not a sponsor. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on YouTube at Dead Arm Sports. Type it into that search bar. It'll be the first thing that pops up. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell there. We monitor that chat, so that way you can ask us any questions there in that chat box. If you miss out on that, Gel can be found at DasGel. That's at DASJEL. I can be found at DasJPEC. That's at DASJPEC. Give us both a follow at Dead Arm Sports, at DasGel, at DasJPEC. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot, and we will swag you up for free. Super Bowl is in the books. NFL season is in the books. Chiefs coming away victorious 38-35 in what was an awesome game up until that last 2 minutes. We'll get into that a little bit, but both quarterbacks I thought played just unbelievably in this one for different reasons. Jalen Hurts, 3 rushing touchdowns, passing touchdown. And then Patrick Mahomes re-injuring that ankle on the TJ Edwards tackle.
Oh God.
Right before halftime.
Again, right before half.
But came out. I mean, you were messaging they probably shot him up with some sort of horse tranquilizer, but it didn't look too bad in the second half. Obviously, it was noticeable, but busted off a couple of runs that I thought
he had a 30-yard scramble.
Yep. So no, overall though, I thought it was solid. We got the game that we wanted to. It was back and forth, high scoring. Eagles were up by 10 at halftime, and Chiefs just kind of climbed back into it. But what were some of your initial takeaways from this one?
Yeah, I mean, right away we saw the scoreboard. I think it was 28-14 at one point or something along those lines. And it's like, this lead isn't safe. They have Patrick Mahomes. Like, right. This lead is not safe. So really, or maybe it was 21-14 at that point or something. But, that if Jalen Hurts doesn't drop that fumble or, drop that ball for that fumble, scoop and score. Tostitos scoop and score. Not a sponsor. We might be looking at a completely different ball game. I mean, probably not completely different because it's still Mahomes on the other side, but that could have been a 10 to 14 point swing if the Eagles took that possession and went down and scored. So, and their main, you could tell the Eagles' main strategy was play keep away from Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, yeah.
And the Chiefs still put up 31 on offense, 38 total. That's so impressive. I know Vic Fangio came in at as like the last 2 weeks as like a
special advisor or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And whatever advice he gave, not great, which makes sense given that when he was the head coach of the Broncos, they went 0-6 against Kansas City. So, but no, I mean, great game, obviously. Jalen Hurts, he was awesome. He reminds me kind of like, a young Russell Wilson, at least like, back in the mid 2010s, maybe late 2010s when Russ was really at his peak, when he was running the ball around. He had that deep ball to AJ Brown, just like Russell Wilson would throw. So
speaking of deep balls, I mean, what's up with that Hail Mary at the end of the game? We'd seen him throw bomb after bomb to AJ Brown.
Did his arm get hit?
I don't
there?
know.
Otherwise, that doesn't make any sense.
No,
because that ball traveled like 25 yards and just like slowly trickled out of the air onto the ground.
No, exactly. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just Jalen Hurts, real deal. And, he was in that same draft class with Joe Burrow. Burrow's going to want to get paid, but at least the Bengals have that 5th-year option that they can cash in on with Burrow if they don't want to pay him this offseason. Jalen's next season is Jalen's last year under contract unless he gets an extension this offseason. I'm pretty sure, right? That's year 4 for Jalen next year.
Yep,
because it was Wentz, and then last year when he started, they made the playoffs, and then this year.
Yep. Yeah, because Wentz, he took over like halfway through the season, right at the end of. Yep.
So
that's dang.
He's due for an extension now because they can't use a 5th-year option on a 2nd-round pick.
Yep.
So he's about to get paid, and he deserves it though. He deserves the 40+ million that he's gonna get. And 374 total yards do you feel comfortable saying this guy's a top 5 type of a quarterback in the league? And I think for me, easily at the top of the NFC.
Yeah.
Is he right there with Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, that kind of, 2nd tier right below Mahomes. Burrow and Mahomes?
Yeah, no, I would slot him in right there. I think I'm really comfortable with that. We've seen him improve each year, which you'd love to see. I mean, it's not
and like huge steps.
Yes,
we thought when he first came in, it's like, can this guy throw the ball? And now he's throwing 50-yard deep balls in the Super Bowl. So yeah.
Yep. No, I'm not too worried about him. He's a big quarterback, so even we'll see. His next contract, I think, is going to be perfect. They're going to get him locked in for a while, get him through his prime, and then after that, we'll see. Because we've talked about numerous times already this season that some of those rushing quarterbacks, they don't last long. Their shelf life isn't the longest, but Eagles can feel comfortable giving him a decent contract right now, and I think they're fine with it. And then at that point in time, you can reevaluate it afterwards. But as long as Nick Sirianni's there, I mean, they're rolling with that offense right now, and they're utilizing all of Jalen Hurts' strengths, which you like to see, and what should be done with a franchise quarterback. You shouldn't force them into use your system. You should work with them, and they've obviously gotten a ton out of him, and you've seen just tremendous improvement. But absolutely, I think he's at the top of the NFC, barring right now when we're recording. We don't know what trades or anything like that will look like this offseason.
But live on Valentine's Day.
Live on Valentine's Day, yes. But and then, yeah, right below Mahomes and Burrow for me.
Okay, it's just amazing to think about the fact that he's probably going to sign his extension before Lamar. Like, what is happening? What is that situation? But I guess, follow-up question to that is, what is he worth? What kind of deal do you think he's going to get? And secondarily, what kind of a contract should he take? Should he take the max amount of money, or should he consider taking a little bit less and continuing to allow the Eagles to support him with, with a really nice surrounding cast?
I mean, ideally, you'd want him to take a team-friendly deal so that way you still have room to sign other people. So, I mean, that would be what I would want. But he was in the MVP talks this year in his second full season in the league. He's going to be costly. Does he set the record quick and then Joe Burrow kind of sit around and wait to see kind of what he gets? I mean, they're two totally different style quarterbacks, but yeah, to see. But I mean, he's going to get a ton, and they have to. I mean, he's your future.
Do you go 5 years, 240 and give him 48 million with, something like that, and maybe guarantee 210 of it or something?
Yeah, that's the thing that's going to be interesting with teams, because Deshaun kind of screwed everything up when the Browns fully guaranteed his contract. I'm curious to see now, with this being the first offseason after the fully guaranteed contract, what we start seeing some of those looking like. If you see more of that style of a contract, or if we go back to the traditional, maybe a 250 million contract with 100 of it guaranteed or something like that. Like what's the new bar for that?
I think the new bar is probably you got to guarantee at least 2/3 of it.
Yeah.
I think Deshaun is still going to remain the outlier. I mean, if you're his agent, you can say, hey, Deshaun got all his contract fully guaranteed, and he hasn't accomplished half of what my client has.
Right.
And then the GM can come back and say, well, every other quarterback outside of him doesn't have a fully guaranteed contract. So I have way more examples than the one that you're trying to pull out of your ass. So I'd bet that it probably at least 2/3 guaranteed, if not 3/4, for any of these high-end quarterbacks going forward. We'll see. Well, I know we're going to talk about Derek Carr in a bit, so we can talk about his, kind of what we're thinking on his contract after he was released by Oakland or fucking Oakland. Jesus, still, dude.
Raiders.
Yeah. And then I also wanted to get over to we gotta obviously talk about the Chiefs side of the ball, but I want to start off with that defense. That offense, that offensive line nullifying the Eagles defense. Eagles had 85 or so, I believe, sacks in the regular season. 0 during the Super Bowl. 6.1 yards per rush as well for that Pacheco, McKinnon, Mahomes combo. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, adios, buddy. You're gone.
Right. Healthy scratch.
Woof.
See ya.
Yeah, he's good as gone, which is, I mean, to be able to get Pacheco in the 7th round, like,
insane.
Brett Veach, legit ass GM. But yeah, I mean, you got to give it up to the Chiefs O-line, giving up 0 sacks to a team that had been on fire. Hassan Reddick was dominant in both the regular season and the postseason. He didn't do squat. I mean, really, was Mahomes ever even under pressure? It felt like a few times maybe, but
and I think that was mostly just due to his mobility. I think if you have a fully healthy Mahomes, wouldn't have even been close. But I think just with him hobbled around, it made it look like it was a lot closer than what it was.
But it still wasn't even that much, which is just nuts. So hats off to that, because that was, one of my biggest question marks for the Chiefs going into this game was how are they going to handle Philly's pass rush? Apparently they did.
Right. Yeah. And it'll be interesting this offseason. They have a huge decision to make with left tackle Orlando Brown, which is a huge part of that offensive line. He's a free agent and going to be making some big cash. So like I mentioned, I think last week, hopefully he's in a blue and orange uniform in Chicago next year, but we'll see what the future holds there. But that's a huge piece there in that left tackle position, not only protecting Mahomes, but with that run game too.
Bears could use a guy like him.
Yes.
A lot of help needed.
Yeah, especially with $90-some million of cap space. I think they have the room to make him at least a
hope so. Yeah.
Good offer. And the other thing I wanted to bring up in that game, Jill, I think we have to bring up here is that James Bradberry, last 2 minutes of the game, that holding call on Juju Smith-Schuster, it was the right call, but just ruined what was an awesome game. I mean, even James Bradberry, you give him a lot of credit because he came out after the games like, yeah, it was a hold. I was hoping I was going to get away with it and didn't. So,
something I heard that's interesting, Rob Ninkovich, when he came out on some podcast, sorry, I don't know it off the top of my head, so I can't give credit, but he said when he was playing with the Patriots and the other team was wearing white, Belichick would have all of his defenders wearing white gloves. So that, I mean, if Bradberry was wearing a white glove, you could see that hand on the back of his jersey with his dark green glove. You might not be able to see that as easily if you're, a back judge, or if you don't see that color difference and it's white on white. So God, Belichick, just like such a sneaky little guy, like little coach, but all that stuff, it's the details like that really pays off clearly, because I don't know if that would have been called if he was wearing white gloves, honestly.
Yeah, no. And to me, it's just frustrating. Like I said, it was the right call. It ruined an awesome game, but it's also frustrating because if you go back and watch the replay, Mahomes wasn't even looking that direction until Juju was like 10 yards down the field, a couple seconds after that it even happened. So it wasn't like he was looking at him the entire time. It was something that was after the fact, and just
and the fact that he sailed it by about 8 yards.
Right.
That pass wasn't even close.
No, not at all. But
I think a big part of this, the reason that he felt the need to hold, was on two similar routes,
touchdowns,
wide open touchdowns, where the receiver would break in and then stop and break directly out. That's the exact route that Juju was running there. And Bradberry had already gotten burned on that type of route, and he wasn't going to let it happen again. And he got called for it. So, I mean, obviously the Chiefs knew something going into this game, that the Eagles corners tend to be very aggressive, potentially overplaying balls or overplaying routes so that they can set themselves up for interceptions and, that type of defense. Well, they got burned twice, 3 times on the same route, 2 that ended up in touchdowns and 1 that ended up in that game, effectively game ending, game sealing penalty after. And, it's the one thing that you can't do there is get called for a flag is
right.
Like, you can allow them to score. They would have still had 90 seconds or so if they would have allowed, if he let Juju go and Mahomes connects on that pass and they go up 7, they can still at least tie this ball game up, or, because you got 90 seconds and a timeout. So that was I mean, it's like you said, it's the right call, but it sucks.
Yeah.
It just sucks, because it was an all-time game up until that final minute and a half, and you just knew it's over. Pacheco sliding at the 1 and then just kneel downs and then the chip shot, the old extra point length.
Right. I know it's so weird now seeing a kick from like inside the 5 or 10. Just like, wait, what's going on now? They're kicking. We had news come out today here, Gel, as well. Both Eagles, OC, and DC are headed to the Colts and Cardinals, respectively, to take over their head coaching positions. Shane Steichen to the Colts and Jonathan Gannon to the Cardinals. So
not related to Rich, I don't think.
No.
Former Raiders legend.
But yeah, so it'll be interesting. Going to have a lot of turnover with the Eagles next year. And I guess with that, we'll jump into what do you think the future of both of the Chiefs and the Eagles here? Do you see them being Super Bowl contenders again next year, taking a step back? What are your thoughts there?
Well, and there's rumors that Eric Bieniemy might be on his way out for the Chiefs.
Speaking of that, before you give your take on the Chiefs and Eagles here, I mean, if you're not taking over a head coaching position, if you're Eric Bieniemy, why would you leave the Chiefs?
I see. My understanding is that he has pretty limited responsibilities right now as the offensive coordinator.
Okay.
Andy Reid's the play caller, and Bieniemy's had plenty of head coaching interviews, but I think that ultimately he's been looked over and passed on because they probably ask him, what do you actually do over there? If you're not calling the plays and you have Patrick Mahomes, like, what do you actually do? So I think he's looking for an opportunity to call plays.
It's like the old Office Space movie. What do you actually do here?
God, classic. So I think that I mean, there's talk about him going to Washington. They're going in with Sam Howell next year. At least right now, Washington has Sam Howell pegged as their number 1 QB for the 2023 regular season, at least to start as of right now. So if he can go in and change up that offense and make that offense work with a defensive head coach, obviously Ron Rivera then wouldn't be the play caller, he would be. And if he's able to do something good with a 3rd round player and Sam Howell, that's going to show a lot of these teams that, okay, this guy should be a head coach. He can be a play caller, full-time play caller, full-time offensive coordinator, be our head coach and our play caller. And ultimately, finally, then he'd get his opportunity as a head coach, because he started interviewing for head coaching spots. Shoot, maybe pre-Mahomes. I mean, back when they had Alex Smith. So he's been in the league for a long time, and I think he's just like, I got to change up something here because
it's not working for his career aspirations.
Right. As far as what I think the Chiefs or the Eagles are going to end up doing, I mean, they've already gone through coaching turnover before. Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator the year that they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. And they just were able to bring in Shane Steichen and a new head coach in Sirianni and, got the train back a rolling. So I think they'll be able to find the right guy. Howie Roseman is one of the best GMs, if not the top GM right now in the league. Him and Brett Veach, ironically, the two teams in the, or not ironically, the two teams in the Super Bowl. So I think they'll be able to reload and I'm sure Steichen has, there may be a quarterback coach that really has helped with Jalen Hurts development as well. That person may be in consideration. It's kind of hard. It'd be hard for me to see them go with an outside hire, at least on, for offensive coordinator, just with how this offense looked this year. Defensive coordinator, probably an internal hire as well. So, I mean, I'd imagine the coaching staff is just as loaded as their players and their player roster. So I think it'll be 2 internal hires. I guess I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, same here. I don't think there'll be any issue there. They've got their cornerstone pieces set. Sirianni's there. He's going to bring in somebody, like you said, more than likely, especially on offense. And their offense was sick this year. So promote one of the positional coaches up and just keep rolling with that same offense you've been using. And then defense, maybe bring somebody else in or promote from inside, but they should be fine.
I just think offensively, easily, you're going to have an internal candidate there.
Yep. And then as far as their offense may look a little bit different next year, Miles Sanders, Boston Scott are both free agents. So it'll be interesting to see if they turn Kenny Gainwell into more of like a 2-down back or still use him in the passing game, maybe draft somebody. Miles Sanders, I don't think you bring him back. It doesn't make sense. I think you just go with the cheaper option in the draft and still get the same result. Jalen Hurts is the one mostly running on key plays inside the goal line. So you just need someone from the 10 to 10 yard line. I don't know.
Yeah. If you can get, I mean, there's guys that are going to be there in the third and fourth round. I love Kenny Gainwell in his current role. I don't see really a need to expand it because he is such a just really good receiving back, and you don't want to ruin that for him. So I think you said it perfectly. Grab a guy in the third, grab a guy in the second, third, fourth, and keep Gainwell. Maybe expand Gainwell's role a little bit, but I don't think there's any need to try to turn him into an every down back, especially, with Jalen Hurts kind of being the main dude anyways, at least in between the 20s, in between the 10s. Like, get yourself a nice power, power, more traditional back, kind of somebody that can fill in the Miles Sanders role, which, let's be honest, it wasn't huge. He was okay when he was called on, but they didn't call on him that much. So, and Miles Sanders is a fine back. He'll be able to find another team, another job, but yeah, there's no reason to pay free agent money for him unless he wants to come back and sign, a $6 million deal for 1 year, something like that, or two years, 12 million, 8 guaranteed, something like that, and bring him back on that type of a deal. But if he wants to get double digit, 10 plus million, that's just not worth it for Miles Sanders and what his role was. Plus, if you've got Jalen Hurts getting his extension, you only have so much money to spend now. So I'd say that they go draft and maybe push Gainwell into a little bit bigger of a role, but they need to get somebody in the draft for sure. Boston Scott is an interesting one, though. I mean, he's a legitimate, number 3 back in that rotation. What's his role on a different team? It's not going to be much more expansive.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they can get him on the cheap and keep him around.
Yeah. As far as their outlook for next season, I think going into the season, they're going to be heavy favorites in the NFC. I don't really see another
heavy
team
favorites.
I don't think
San Fran's still out there.
Yeah. But you don't know what that quarterback situation's like right now. We know that, I guess, Brock Purdy, we did find out that he's not going to have the full Tommy John surgery or anything like that. So he should be back for hopefully the start of the season, ready to go. So, yeah, maybe not heavy favorites, but I think they're going to be the top team in the NFC, at least going into the season.
It's going to be weird. There's always one team that ends up with Super Bowl hangover. And we saw that with the Eagles after they won their title in 2017, that they just fell off. They were never, and a lot of that had to do with Carson Wentz going from an MVP candidate to then being just completely worthless. So somehow Howie Roseman ended up getting a number 1 pick or a first round pick for him from Indy, but that's Jim Irsay running the ship over there, saying, "Hey, we got to go get Wentz." And saw how that worked out. So if there's just always the chance for a Super Bowl hangover. Jalen Hurts is legit, but does he kind of take a step back? I don't see that necessarily, but it's possible. We did not expect this type of a season out of Hurts. And once, if Lane Johnson retires, if Jason Kelce, who right now Kelce's saying that he's 50-50 on returning next year or retiring, and if Lane Johnson goes, that offensive line is a lot weaker. They do have 2 first-round picks this year. They've got the number 10 pick from the Saints and then their own pick at 31. So they can use at least one of those picks, probably one of those picks on a playmaker, one of those picks on, I would think, offensive line depth. Fletcher Cox, he's up there in age, and I believe he's a free agent. I don't know the status of Hassan Reddick, but can he duplicate what he did this year? He was a fine pass rusher. He wasn't the, stud like he was this year in the past. So got to wonder if like all the stars happen to align for Philly and they end up taking an inevitable step back, or if they're able to do it again. I mean, we'll see. Losing in your offensive and defensive coordinators, that's not an easy thing to just, if they go internal, a little bit easier to replicate. But again, that's that's your second and third biggest, most important coaching positions that are gone now. And you don't know. And Steichen and
Gannon.
I was going to say Rich Gannon. Jason, right? Jonathan Gannon. Boy, still recovering, I guess. I mean, they might be taking guys with them as well for their staff and promoting some guys. So I feel like there might be a lot of turnover, but they still have Jalen Hurts, who right now is by far the number 1 quarterback in the NFC. Who would have thought we'd be saying that? That's insane.
Yeah.
But that's why I say, hey, it's possible that he takes a little bit of a step back. So, but you do still have Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert's a top 5-ish, top 5, top 6-ish, top 10 minimum tight end in the league. AJ Brown's one of the top receivers. Devonta Smith might be the best number 2 receiver in the league, at least the way that he played, especially the second half of this year. So it's just a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of turnover. I still think that they're the number 1 team in the NFC going into next season, but I got San Francisco right there with them. We mentioned last week, the Rams, they have to bounce back. I mean, there's no way that they're going to be as bad as they were this year. Who knows what's going on in the NFC North? Are the Lions for real? I mean, they finished the season, I think 7-3 in their last 10 or something. Yeah. Something wild like that. Does Rodgers come back and he maybe returns a little bit to form with those receivers in their second year? Or does Jordan Love come in and light it up? Vikings, I mean, I'm not a buyer in the Vikings. There's, as we talked about last week, I think they may end up missing the playoffs. Cowboys, they have their ceiling, but they might be the number 3 team in the NFC. So I'm not going to say clear favorites for Philly in the NFC, but they should be the favorites going into next year.
Yeah, and I think of these 2 teams, if anyone does have that Super Bowl hangover, like you said, it's going to be the Eagles. I don't see the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs are a team.
They have the best quarterback ever, maybe.
Yeah, they should be fine. And I mean, the only thing that stinks with the Chiefs is that AFC is so much tougher than the NFC. So it is going to be hard for them to get back to the Super Bowl, but they're no worries there. I mean, you've got a couple, Mecole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster, I think, are up, but
adios, Juju.
Right? Yeah, doesn't matter. Bring in the next guy.
Or as AJ Brown calls him, TikTok boy. He tweeted out today. I'm going to find that little Twitter sparring they had really quick, but continue.
Yeah. But so I don't see any issue at all from the Chiefs. They're going to be rolling regardless. So they got all the pieces in place and they found ways to win even in the years before they brought over Orlando Brown from Baltimore. I mean, they still had a way to get their line going and everything. So I'm no question Chiefs will be right back in the playoffs next year.
Yeah, this little Twitter spat between Juju and AJ Brown. Juju tweets out a Valentine's Day card with a picture of James Bradbury on it, and it says, "I'll hold you when it matters most." That's pretty funny. But I think AJ Brown takes the crown here as the ultimate victor on Twitter. He responds saying, "First off, congratulations. Y'all deserve it. This is lame. You was on the way out of the league before Mahomes resurrected your career on your 1-year deal, TikTok boy. He admitted that he grabbed you, but don't act like you're that or ever was. But congratulations again." I just love calling him that he calls him TikTok boy. That's so
awesome.
funny.
That is fantastic. Any other notes on the Chiefs, Joe, before we jump into a little Derek Carr news?
No, I mean, I guess, the only question mark, I mean, you mentioned the 2 wide receivers that are likely on their way out. Maybe Hardman sticks around but he's still, a number 4 receiver.
Yeah.
So I could see him gone. And I mean, Juju had a few balls that he caught, but he's also catching L's on Twitter. So I think he's probably on his way out too.
Yep.
And that was one of those receiving cores that was already kind of weak. I mean, they really had no number 1 wideout. So
no,
pretty amazing that this is a wide receiver core.
That's their number 1 wideout.
Exactly.
That's all you need. News dropped today that the Raiders released Derek Carr, which was inevitable. They gave him room to go and try and find a trade partner, and Saints brought him in and everything. But essentially, Derek Carr is like, you guys are going to be on the hook for a lot of money if you keep me under contract through Tuesday. So I know you're going to release me. The ball's in my court, and I don't want to trade. I've got a full no trade clause. Here's my 2 middle fingers up in the air, flying high as I walk out the door, and have fun with that. So Raiders end up getting no compensation, release him today, and he is currently free to sign with whatever team he wants. So I don't blame Derek Carr for doing that at all. That was totally the right move on his part. Be a free agent, so that way you can go and try and get the most out of your next contract. You're going to be on your 3rd contract, I think, at this point. And then any favorites that you see? I mean, obviously the Saints are going to be in the mix. He went and took a visit. Carolina is probably a team that'll be kicking the tires. I mean, you could probably throw any NFC South team kicking the tires on him at this point in time. But any favorites to land him that you like, or any teams that you think he should go to that'd be a perfect fit?
I mean, I like him in Carolina. I think that I would like
DJ Moore.
Freaking finally get him a quarterback. Goodness gracious. Maybe we could see Terrace Marshall actually finally do anything in the league too, if he gets a legit quarterback. But I'd like the fit there. Frank Reich, we saw him with Wentz in Indy. Looked a hell of a lot better in Indy than he did in Washington this year. So Frank Reich and Wentz go back to Philly when Wentz also was that MVP candidate. So I think Frank Reich is legit, and I think that'd be a good fit. They've got a nice defense. Shoot, they were better last year, significantly better at the end of the year when Sam Darnold was there. So Derek Carr's an obvious clear step up. And the Saints too. I mean, I think I like the fit in Carolina a little bit better than the Saints, just because I like Frank Reich more than I do Dennis Allen at head coach. But those are the 2 obvious teams. What's insane is that if Derek Carr goes to the NFC, is he the 2nd best quarterback in that conference, right behind Jalen? I mean, there's so many question marks. Is it Kirk Cousins? Is it Dak?
Yeah, I mean, which Dak shows up? I mean,
Carr, Kirk Cousins, Dak, all those guys are kind of on the same, wavelength. Brock Purdy, I mean, the way that he played.
Stafford, if he goes back to 2 years ago.
If he can be healthy. I mean, Geno, do we really think Geno's going to do this again? Drew Lock, where's he in the mix?
Oh gosh. Somehow he finds a way to get brought up every show.
Has to.
Love it.
So I think that those are the 2 biggest, easiest fits. He's got that, Southern accent. So I think he'll fit into the community really well there right away. So I mean, those are the 2 obvious fits. You name them right off the bat, and and Tampa, I guess you could throw in there too, but I think that's a perfect spot for Jimmy G to finally actually take over for Brady, but which he wasn't able to do in New England.
It'll be interesting for Derek Carr too, because I mean, I look at a team like the Jets too, but right now their hat's in the ring for Aaron Rodgers, and they might not have the luxury of Derek Carr being available when it comes time to find out if Rodgers is actually going to come back or want a trade or anything like that too, because Derek Carr can start negotiating now. So it'll be interesting. He might have a totally different market that some teams that may be thinking that they have a shot at Aaron Rodgers are going to completely miss out on him as a fallback option. So
what a massive swing that the Jets are taking here, by the way. What do they do if they don't get Rodgers? You can't go back to Zach Wilson.
No.
Do you take a risk or a quarterback in the top 10 in this draft? I mean, like, they clearly want to win now. You can't go grab a Will Levis. He's not ready to lead a franchise. Yeah. He's probably still eating coffee with mayo. So like, I just don't. Jets are taking such a massive risk here, trying to grab Rodgers.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Derek Carr would be a perfect fit for him. He could jump in right away, day one. But they already signed Hackett, which tells me they're going all in for Rodgers, just like the Broncos did last year. And they ended up having to overpay for Russell Wilson, both in terms of picks and in money. And we saw how that turned out. So good luck, Jets. I hope you get him. I hope you can take Rodgers off the Packers' hands.
Yep. All right. On to golf. Waste management recap. Actually, before Joe, a quick update here. By the way, again, thank you for letting me take Jalen Hurts, won our playoff Drew Lock.
So dumb.
Appreciate it.
So dumb.
Waste management recap. Quite the fun tournament again. Leaderboard was filled with a ton of big names over the weekend, which is always fun to watch. And Scottie Scheffler ended up showing his form that he started off his season last year with at this tournament, ended up defending his title, and that final round, just making clutch putt after clutch putt. I look back on that 16th hole, had a 20-some footer for par, and ended up draining that. That could have been a huge momentum swing there, and just played a solid round of golf all weekend this last weekend. But it was a lot of fun to watch. Ricky Fowler with the Sunday hole-in-one.
Yeah, buddy.
That was just a fun tournament. The only thing, I guess, the crowds were unbelievable again, but it was so weird on Saturday just watching the broadcast on hole 16. They'd like pan to the crowd, and there's like a ton of empty seats. I don't know if people that were in line at 4 a.m. that were running to go get their seats just tuckered out and had a little too much soda pop or whatever. But it was weird. They showed, and there was like a ton of empty seats in like the general admission gallery, which I thought was really strange on a Saturday. Sunday, you see that because as the leaders are getting there, it's close to the Super Bowl. So the crowds kind of slim down a little bit, but I didn't have the atmosphere, I don't think, as far as like a full crowd. I mean, they still were packed, but it was just weird seeing empty seats.
I'm guessing that a number of those people that were there that lined up at 4 a.m. probably got like halfway through the day and they're like, hey, let's go to like some Super Bowl events or whatever. I mean, with the Super Bowl in town, doesn't shock me, I guess, as much as if this was last year or if next year, if we're seeing the same thing, that maybe turns into a little bit more of a concern. But there was so much stuff going on in that city this weekend. Obviously, like, I'm sure it's like, hey, you know, people coming in from all around the country wanting to do both waste management stuff and Super Bowl stuff. So I'm guessing that was the case here, but what a hell of a leaderboard to fin. I mean, you know, final round or final, your final, Jesus Christ, standings. God, I am struggling. Scheffler, Nick Taylor, Canadian dude that I hadn't really heard much out of, but he was there all week and Saturday and Sunday. Finished Sunday 6 under, tying Scheffler for, you know, both of them 6 under. And yeah, you mentioned Scottie. If he would have bogeyed that 16th hole, 17 and 18 become a lot more interesting for that battle for first place. But John Rahm, another top 3 finish. Justin Thomas roars back with a sweet weekend after he started off pretty cold. Jason Day still remaining
finish.
pretty hot, finishing in the top 5. So, I mean, Spieth was there all weekend. Xander Schauffele was kind of up and down a little bit. He started off pretty well and then fell off and then had a nice Saturday.
He was tied for the lead Saturday after hole 14, and then just from 15 on, just
didn't do much, and only
putting just went cold.
Yeah. So, but you just mentioned Ricky Fowler, top 10 finish for the guy. Is he back? I mean, we've been waiting for 5-6 years for him to be back, but this is the best golf he's played since he had his kid.
Yeah. So since he won this tournament in, I think, 2019, but yeah, he always plays well at this tournament. So I want to see him do it another tournament, but he's had a pretty solid start to his season. I think he's got one missed cut, but he's looking better. His swing seems more consistent. He seems more comfortable out there. It seemed like last year he's on the tee box. He doesn't know where that ball's going. He just didn't have the control that he has in the past. And I saw he switched over too. He's got the longer putter now. So he's trying everything to switch it up, and it's working right now. So yeah, hopefully it is. Golf's more fun when Ricky's in it. I know he's a crowd favorite, and it's one of my favorite golfers too. So it's always fun when he's
the best mustache in the game of golf. Oh, yeah. The Dirty Sanchez.
Yes. Yeah, I thought for a while there, Jelly mentioned both of our golfers. I was going to gain some ground in our golf picks, but Justin Thomas, like you said, roared back over the weekend and got your lead back out to a solid 7 strokes. So Justin Thomas finished minus 13, and I was at Xander Schauffele minus 10. So
2 good showings.
Absolutely.
I really wasn't. I mean, Justin Thomas, the way he started, I thought that, and the way that Schauffele started, I thought I was screwed. So,
oh yeah.
But JT had a really nice Sunday.
Yep. Genesis Invitational is this weekend, and Tiger is back. Tweet came out from the official Tiger Woods Twitter account that says he's actually going to play in an actual PGA tournament this week and tee it up at the Genesis. So I know that was a lot of buzz. It was fun seeing some of the golfers' reaction in their post-round interviews on Friday when the reporters said, "Hey, did you hear Tiger's playing next weekend?" Their ears and eyes kind of perked up like, what?
That's awesome.
So yeah, you can tell everyone's pumped for it. I mean, epic grouping for him in his first 2 rounds. Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas. So I mean, that'll be just awesome to watch on TV, and we wouldn't expect any other 2 golfers to be teaming up.
I was gonna say that's perfect for pairing with Tiger. 2 of his better, especially with all the business that him and Rory are doing with that. God, I keep forgetting the name of it. That not the Super Golf League.
Yeah, no, it's like the TGL or something. Yeah, something like that. But yeah.
So that's, I mean, Rory, I'm not surprised there. And Justin Thomas, again, it's, 3 of the biggest names in golf and 2 of Tiger's guys that he's, closest with in the PGA Tour. So no shock there. Him and JT have done a lot of one-on-one work together too. So, you got to be obviously extremely stoked for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, what are you expecting from him? I don't think either of us are going to be throwing him into our picks at the end of this. At least,
don't speak for me, yet, buddy.
But, all right, but what do you expect from him in this one? I mean, you've heard all week, at least with what I've been reading here and in other shows and everything, is Genesis really Riviera Country Club? It's not too tough. It's downhill on 1 and then back uphill on 18. Otherwise, it's relatively flat. So hopefully he gets around okay. I'm sure he feels comfortable enough to obviously play in this. You got to think that he's going to be playing in this, probably at Sawgrass in March, Masters, obviously. So he doesn't want to put the Masters in jeopardy. So he's got to be feeling pretty good, or at least good enough where he thinks he can get around for 4 rounds of golf. But we saw him play with Charlie back in early December. And obviously he's out there for Charlie. So he's wanting him to have a great time. And Charlie, I mean, is going to be awesome.
God, he's good already, man.
Yeah. But we haven't seen a ton from Tiger Woods, especially in a tournament. Last time he teed it up was in that US Open last year, I think.
Open
The
Championship,
PGA
I
Open
think.
Championship. Okay, yep. But what do you see from him? Any expectations to at least make a cut? Is that kind of where you think
That's
his
what
goal
I'm
should
hoping
be?
for, is just a made cut. I want to see him on Saturday and on Sunday. What's weird is like this is kind of revered as his tournament and his course, yet he's never won a tournament here. So
couple T2s, but yep.
but never won it. So I mean, I don't really have high expectations. I have no expectations. I have hope that I see him on Saturday and Sunday. That's about it. It's just going to be cool enough to see him tee off on Thursday and again, see that whole group just tee off on Thursday and just watch those guys, listen to the ovation that he's going to be getting. But he said in a presser this weekend that he wouldn't be out there if he didn't expect or didn't think that he could beat these guys. So, he feels good. He must feel like he's healthy enough to play. We've seen the challenge of him being able to do it for 4 full days, given, how much walking it is. But he's got a full off season under his belt now to rest that thing. And hopefully it's healed up 100%. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a great Thursday, Friday, or at least a very good Thursday, Friday, and maybe peters off on Saturday, Sunday a little bit, golf is tiring. I mean, especially when you have to walk I don't know how long this course is, but maybe 7,000 something yards.
7,322 yards, par 71.
So you're walking 29,000 yards over a 4-day stretch. That's a lot. That's just a lot for somebody that maybe isn't used to walking these courses as much as he used to when he was playing every weekend. So I could see him having a really good first couple rounds, and then really the cream rises to the top on Saturday, Sunday, and he kind of falls back a little bit. But I'm hoping for a made cut. That's all I really care about with him, so that we can get 4 days of watching him out there.
Absolutely. Other golfers teeing it up with Tiger this week: Keegan Bradley, Patrick Cantlay, Joel Damon, Jason Day, Tony Baloney Finau, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Ricky Fowler, Max Homa, Billy Horschel, Big Dick Vic Hovland, Sungjae Im, Hideki Matsuyama, Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa, John Ramalama Ding Dong, Xander Schauffele, Scottie Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, Heath Theegala, Justin Thomas, and Will Zalatoris coming back in after
what a freaking off. Squad. But of course, all these guys want to play in Tiger's event.
Yep. So I think 23 out of the top 25 in the world are playing in this one. So I mean, back to back tournaments now that are just awesome. But
speaking of Tony Baloney, not talking about Finau, but talking about Kadarius Toney, longest punt return in Super Bowl history on that one that he, throwing it back to football for a second there. Just a quick little note there. If you are going into trivia sometime, keep that in the back of your head that Kadarius Toney owns the longest punt return in Super Bowl history.
Trivia to betting, Joe. Who are some of the heavy favorites in this one?
Perfect. John Ramalama Ding Dong, again, not a surprise, sitting there at the top at plus 775. Rory and Scottie Scheffler at plus 1,000. JT at plus 1,200. And Xander Schauffele at plus 1,600. That's going to round out your top 5. Right behind them, those 5, Tony Baloney Finau, Max Homa, and Colin Morikawa. Max Homa has played some really nice golf this year, and he's played well in this tournament in the past. So I'm glad to see him up at the top there.
Yep.
Or in that top 8.
All right, time for our picks. You're new to the show. Welcome in. Each week, starting with the Century Tournament of Champions, Jell and I pick a golfer, whatever their score is relative to par. That is the score that you get. Keeping a running total. Cut doesn't matter. Whatever your golfer finishes at, if they miss the cut, that's a score you get. Cut's only important if Jell and I tie for strokes at the end of the year. So probably not relevant, but I think that's 1-0 right now. I think I have 1 missed cut.
Yes, sir.
Your streak's alive, Jell. Every golfer you pick so
We're
far
has streaking.
made the cut. So you can't pick the same golfer as your opponent for that week. And once you use a golfer, you cannot use them again. I am 7 strokes down, so I get first pick this week. A lot of big names out there, Jell. not going to go with one as big, decent name out there, but this guy was the 2020 champ, tied for 4th last year, and is the all-time earnings leader at the Genesis Invitational. He rocks some mustard-colored shirts that I absolutely can't stand. He leaves the flag in when he putts, but I'm going to be rolling with Adam Scott this week. So.
Oh, my God.
Adam Scott. Hey, this tournament is one of his favorites. It's in his wheelhouse. He performs well here every year, and that's what I need right now, is to keep pace and maybe pick up a couple strokes here. So I'm gonna roll with the guy that's hot at the Genesis.
Adam Scott, hot Scott. Not related to Michael as far as we know. I'm going to go with another player that finished last year with tied for 4th. The year before, 2021, tied for 5th. You named him Big Dick Vic Hovland.
Nice.
He's, this season so far, he's played in 6 events, 5 top 25s, 2 top 10s. He's made the cut in all 6 events. So he's playing good golf. And and he's got good history here with 2 top 5 finishes at Riv over the last 2 seasons. So, plus, you can't, no denying that nickname, Big Dick Vic Hovland.
Yeah, no, I love the pick. He was my number 2, so I was kind of between him and Scott all day, and I was like, oh, I'm not ever going to use Adam Scott in another tournament, so I'm going to use him here and maybe save Big Dick Vic for later on. So, no, love it, and hopefully I can get a couple strokes back, but I'm up against it this week. It's going to be tough to get past Mr. Hovland.
I like it.
That'll wrap
Adam
up.
Scott with his freaking putting with the pin in.
Pin in, big long putter, mustard colored shirts.
It's your boy.
Oh, hey. At least he's on the screen all morning. Yeah. All right, that'll wrap up this episode. It can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Go to YouTube, type in Dead Arm Sports into that search bar. Subscribe, click the bell there. That way you know when our live episodes drop. Monitor that chat box. You can ask us any questions there. Otherwise, if you miss out on our live feed, show does pop up the next day. You can watch it there. Ask us any questions at Dead Arm Sports, at DosGel, at DosJPEG. Hit us up. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot, and we will send you some swag. What are those platforms, Joe?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. Also, as mentioned by DosJPEG. Find us on YouTube. Just search Dead Arm Sports there. Subscribe. Hit that bell for for notifications whenever we go live, whenever we put out any brand spanking new content. Generally twice a week. But going forward, Josh has a special announcement.
Oh, well, we're going to be ending season 2 here and taking a little month off or so from our recordings. Babies due any day now. So we're going to be a little dad duty here, but we'll be back in a few months or so, or a month, I think. So we'll be back before
Selection Sunday
NFL
for
draft,
sure.
Before Selection Sunday. So yeah, just a couple weeks off here, and make sure you subscribe to our socials. We're still going to be tweeting out the golf picks each week, tweeting out other content and stuff. Just won't have any new episodes for you here for the next couple weeks. But don't fret. Season 3 will be back, and it will be bigger and better than ever.
3rd time's a charm, right?
Yes, sir. But no, excited for that. Again, follow us on our socials. Keep tweeting out those golf picks. And Joe, anything else you want to add and close her out?
Now that you've won Super Bowl 57, Patrick Mahomes, how are you going to celebrate?
I'm going to Disney World.